All right, friends. So we are here with the Adventure Science Center. My name is Derrick, and I'm the Planetarium Manager on the staff here at the Science Center. We, of course, being here in Nashville, are of totality for the 2017 total eclipse of the sun, and we could not be more excited for the opportunities that this gives us to reach out and share different aspects of science than folks might be used to. This is always referred to as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and in many cases, that is putting it lightly. In case you haven't checked the numbers, the most recent total solar eclipse that we've experienced right here in Nashville was in the year 1478. Only catch there, someone caught it. There was no Nashville back in 1478. So this is something we're very, very excited about. I'm joined by some folks who are here live in person at the Adventure Science Center. We also have opportunities for folks to share questions with us, either via chat if you're watching on YouTube Live, or if you want to join the Google Hangout, you have probably found that link on our website. So you're welcome to do that as well if you want to dive in. So we will give everyone a chance to introduce each other, and then we'll sort of throw it around back and forth, figure out who all wants to share what. So first off, we're going to pass it to Bernhard Wong, and Bernhard Wong is the head of the European Space Agency. He's a solar physicist, and he is so kindly joining us tonight, where it is 1:30 a.m. his local time. So he pointed out to me that that's an okay thing for an astronomer, but we're appreciative nonetheless. So Bernhard looks like he's on the phone with someone else, but I'm going to go ahead and pass his audio through on my end. So
it's a pleasure to be with you, and it's my first experience trying to observe a solar eclipse at midnight. You know, as I am in Europe. I have been involved in a number of expeditions as a solar physicist in the first part of my career. First time was in 1990 from Finland and Turkey. Then we had a number of a big expedition we organized the Atacama Desert in the north of Chile in 1994, where we rented on four-wheel drive, and we have a team of 15 astronomers observing at 4,000 meters the eclipse. And then we went to a few places in Vietnam in 1995, in Guadeloupe in 1998, and then we had, like you are going to have in the US, we had a beautiful eclipse all over Europe in 1999. And then there we organized some 12 teams and places over the shadow, and then we could make a movie, but also we could share beautiful experiences all over the place.
Excellent.
So we are eclipse searchers, and it's what you see, but also what you share with your friends, talking about science, about the sun, the earth, the moon, and sharing it with your friends and your colleagues.
Excellent. Just in case, I know it can be a little bit tricky for the phone passing through, so I'll do a little recap in case that was tricky for folks to hear via phone, via video chat all at once. But Bernhard was telling us about all these different eclipses that he's been to see. One of them was in 1999 in Finland, 1994 in the Atacama, and then we also had 1995, 1998, 1999 was one in Europe, which he described as much like this one, which we are of course referring to as the eclipse, right? So we've got this Great American Eclipse idea coming our way. As we're doing that, let's see who we're catching for some chasing circles there. But we've got a few different teams, basically, he was saying, 12 different teams across Europe that sort of went along that path of the eclipse to sort of put together a big compiled movie, which is very exciting. I know there are a lot of teams here in the United States as we get ready for our eclipse to sort of pass across our entire path as we take a look at this Great American Eclipse. I point out to people, you know, we call it the Great American Eclipse. That is an incredible coincidence for us, but it doesn't necessarily make it any more scientifically special. So that's just something extra to consider. But it's definitely something exciting for us. We know that the shadow will touch the Earth in one ocean, move all the way across the United States, lift off in another ocean, and that's something that we're just incredibly excited for. That hasn't happened in a very long time here in the United States. So moving on from Bernhard, excuse me, we have, let's go next to Polly, and Polly White is with us. She's actually one of the creators of the Great American Eclipse website. And so she's been spending, I think, 3 years, and correct me if that's an underestimate, but 3 years putting an incredible website, an incredible resource together. And so Polly, why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of information about yourself?
Sorry, is my audio weird?
We hear you pretty loud, so I may turn you down just a tiny scooch here. But go ahead.
Okay, is that better? My husband and I he started chasing eclipses in 1991. I started in 2009. We both were passionate about the total solar eclipse of this year in 2017. He happens to have the unique ability to integrate his map making skills and GIS skills with his passion for solar eclipses. That led to the creation of all the eclipse maps, and that morphed into the whole thing that is now greatamericaneclipse.com. I'm the business manager side of things. I do the store. I do a lot of the media stuff, things like that. So we're just a complimentary team. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today. He's in the air flying back from a conference. Sorry about that. He sends his regrets.
That is all right. We are more than happy to have you here with us and share all the expertise that you have gained just through all the work you've done. I know you've been busy immersing yourself in the eclipse, and so we appreciate you taking some time to share maybe some of your favorite things you've learned and biggest things you're looking forward to.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to Michael. We've got Michael Bakich here with us, and he works for Astronomy Magazine, astronomy.com. So Michael, why don't you go ahead and give us your little spiel?
Well, I don't like to use the word work, first of all. Work is something that you do when you have to do it. I really enjoy my job. The eclipse has given me a wonderful platform to spread a very short, very simple word, and that is that this is all about totality. Okay, if you have the opportunity to get to the area where this eclipse will be total, please take that opportunity and do it. Really, I'd like to say whatever you have to do, but you may not be able to travel to totality, for legal reasons or something like that. But get to totality if you can. And that is the main message. The entire United States will see at least half the sun covered by the moon. But the difference between that and a total solar eclipse is, well, there's really no comparison. So that's been my message for really the past 4 or 5 years. I wrote my first blog about this eclipse 1,500 days before the eclipse. And so been writing about it ever since.
Excellent. So we definitely have a lot of advanced preparation happening among our panelists here. In addition to all these fine folks, we also have Vivian White here, and Vivian is with the Pacific Astronomical Society and also with the Night Sky Network. So she's got her own hands full of all different fun eclipse activities. So Vivian, go ahead and fill us in a little bit more, if you would.
Hi, everybody. I actually am from Nashville, Tennessee, and I remember back in the 90s being at Hillsborough High School and realizing that this eclipse was going to come through Nashville and thinking, oh, I'm going to be 40 when that happens. And I'll be darned, I'm now 40, and it will be here any minute now. I am the director of free choice learning at the Astronomical Society of the Pacific here in San Francisco, California. And I work mostly with amateur astronomers through the NASA Night Sky Network. And we work to give amateur astronomers the tools they need to talk to the public. So I know that you guys have an astronomy club there we work very closely with. And I know you guys are connected actually with the Adventure Science Center. So it's a pleasure to talk to you. My job is, well, I have a few different hats that I wear, but one of the things that I do is I coordinate. We have about 1,000 photographers across the path of totality who will be taking images of totality with their DLSR cameras for only during those couple of minutes of totality, but we're going to be creating the mega movie, the Eclipse mega movie. So pictures of totality, hopefully from Oregon to South Carolina during that 90 minutes that will create a movie. We're also going to use those images to do actual science on the other side of the eclipse. So I also create activities, and I was just going to show you this one because anybody can do it. It's really easy. Do you want me to show it now, or should I hold off?
Yeah, no, go
okay,
for it. You can do that. Maybe we can run back behind the scenes here at Adventure Science Center. We've got that sitting and ready. So maybe.
Do you really? Oh.
Yeah, we'll maybe have our live audience here come give it a go for themselves. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this is super easy. You can do it with whatever you have at home. I use Play-Doh because I have a 6-year-old now. What you do is you make a scale model of the Earth and Moon. So I make the Earth 1 inch across here, and that would make the Moon a 1/4 inch across. So here I've used beads, but you can use anything you want. You just stick them on toothpicks. So we're going to make a scale model of the Earth and Moon, and this is to size scale, but we're going to also make it to distance scale. So if you do that, I have a collapsible yardstick here. You could fit 30 Earths in between the Earth and Moon. So that means you put them 30 inches apart. Let's see. So I have one at 3 inches, and then I'll put this one at 33 inches. So when you, whoop, sorry, I'm attached with my headphones. That won't work, but we're going to pretend that that's why we have the folding eclipse yardsticks.
Perfect.
Then you can actually use this outside during the day to model why eclipses happen. It will create a small shadow on the Earth, the moon's shadow passing over the Earth, and you'll see why. Even see the point of totality there in the center is very, very dark. But this is a fun one you can do anywhere. All you need is a yardstick and a little bit of Play-Doh and some toothpicks. So I encourage you to try it out sometime. You can do it during the eclipse. You can do it in preparation, but you should definitely unfold the yardstick if you want it to scale. There you go.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Well, thank you for taking a moment to share that with us. Bernhard, I may pass the next question to you. So I'll get the phone volume turned back up here. But the question I wanted to ask you, you've seen quite a few eclipses as I take a look at some of the ones that you had mentioned that we had just listed, and not only that, but you've had a chance to develop and refine your techniques and your approaches for going out to see the eclipses, getting big teams ready, getting folks mobilized, across the country or even across the continent. Is there anything that you wish you would have known before seeing your first eclipse? Everyone says that you can't put it into words. You can't describe it accurately in a way that really gives people a sense of what that eclipse viewing experience is like. But is there anything that you wish you would have known or that you want people to know in advance of seeing this once in a lifetime event? So go ahead, Bernhard.
Well, that's not one, but I think on the first eclipse you should enjoy. You should feel this cosmic connection between you, the Earth, and your on the Moon and your Sun, your connection to the cosmos, and try to share it with your friends, with your family, with your colleagues.
Okay, just I'm going to sort of not translate, but sort of repeat after you say. So the first eclipse, he's saying, just take that chance and enjoy it. It's this connection. It's you. You're outside. It's you. It's the sun, the moon, and so don't spend the whole time looking into a camera or anything like that. But just be there, mentally, and experience that. Did I translate all right, Bernhard?
You have also to take the opportunity to do citizen science, to make that contribute to science in real science, and it's literally is a different experience.
Could you say that one more time? Sorry about that.
different extent because, okay, in some case, very things come to you, like it will come in the Great American Eclipse. So that will be an experience from America, from France, and they will all come to visit you from all over the world. And other eclipses, we have to travel all over the world. And so meet new people and also meet some of our solar colleagues. And we had a great experience. Some of them, we were at 400 meter altitude. I had some of them landing of volcano during an eclipse. And then also the human experience.
All right, so and he's saying, you know, in some cases, much like the case that we're experiencing right here, the eclipse will come right to us, but in other cases you have to go traveling all around the world. But he was mentioning, you know, what a different, unique experience that brings with it, because you're not just going through this scientific experience, but you're also getting to travel, meet new people, explore new cultures. You know, potentially, you know, end up, you know, traveling to the top of a volcano and see the eclipse. Just to share another anecdote that I had read from someone elsewhere, you know, she said she's seen all these eclipses, she's studied them, she's done all the science, but what she would most like to do is just go to some remote eclipse, find a beach where she's just completely alone, lay back, and just take it in. So, you know, there are many chances for measurements, which Bernhard, I know you were mentioning to us. You know, you get these opportunities to record a lot of really great, valuable, and learn some new science that we can't always see when you don't have this sort of special occasion in the sky. But it's a mix of a unique science opportunity and also just a really fantastic, you know, personal human experience. How did I do, Bernhard?
I prepared a big expedition, and then it was clear during the whole morning, and it was covered just 10 minutes before the eclipse.
Oh no! And how did that go?
Well, beautifully we had the images from Soho, the sake of country, so we had images from the corona before, and I had real time on national French radio comment on the corona was looking like during the eclipse. Couldn't see anything, but luckily I had the images from space I obtained in the morning, but to describe exactly the things I've come to see. And it was quite a surrealistic experience to be able to describe what other people would see, but I was not able to directly.
That's a really fantastic thing. It's a neat story to share. So, you know, being in France, clear skies all morning leading up to the eclipse, and then right about 10 minutes before the eclipse, clouds rolled in, which is not, of course, not something that you look for to happen. So you've got these clouds coming and rolling in, but thanks to some of the different satellites that we've got up in space, we have these fantastic tools to go and to explore the sun. So even though it was cloudy where Bernhard was, he could still see from that morning. He knew the exact structures. He knew what the corona looked like, where to direct people, what they could see. So even though where he was cloudy, he was actually broadcasting on French radio, describing everything in this vivid detail, telling everyone what they were seeing without seeing it himself, which I think is just a fantastic story. So thank you for sharing that, Bernhard. I may jump next to Polly, and jumping to Polly, I want to just ask you, in many ways, an eclipse evangelist, if you will, you know, reaching out, sort of spreading the word about the eclipse, getting people excited. What do you think is most important for people to know, or what would you like sort of to put out to people as we get ready? I think we're 39 days away right now.
Well, a couple of things. I'd reiterate what Michael Bakich just said. do everything you can, take the time, make the effort to try to get into the path of totality. Through our social media and stuff, we're seeing a lot of people who say, well, we're at 90%, so we're good, we got this. And it's like, no, please try harder, because the difference really is that big of a difference. And of course, when you're viewing the partial phases, make sure you've got certified, safe eclipse viewing glasses. I'm getting a lot of questions about that these days. Ones that are manufactured by Rainbow Symphony or American Paper Optics, both here in the US, they're certified safe. They are going to be fine for direct solar viewing. There, looks like you have some there. So that's pretty much what is available in this country. We understand there are some on the market that are not certified safe, but most of the ones from Rainbow Symphony, all of the ones from Rainbow Symphony and American Paper Optics made here in the US are safe. And I encourage people to use them. Start watching early in the partial phases. There's something really magical about watching the moon as it begins to move in front of the sun. Totality, of course, is all of the magic, but to me, it's still really cool watching the whole solar system in process. Kind of a thing that, for me, in my first eclipse, I was just as excited by the partial phases as I was about totality, and I watched the moon go all the way out. A lot of people stop after totality and stop looking. I watched the partial phases all the way to the end, because it's really something amazing. And I've seen 4, this will be my 5th. The magic, the beauty, just knowing that you're standing in the shadow of the moon, watching the solar system in action, seeing that corona, and seeing, prominences and Bailey's beads, it's an incredible experience. It's worth the time and effort to get into the path of totality.
Yeah, no, that's really fantastic. You, as many people do, described it very, very poetically, and you just hear what a fantastic experience this is. So that is certainly something that we're looking forward to here in Nashville. We might say we're very long overdue. Yeah, ask a question of you, Michael. Just a quick, if you could describe to us, and it doesn't necessarily have to be quick either, but describe to us some of the last moments before totality, just all the things that are coming toward people to experience. Could you give us just a brief rundown of what those last couple of minutes before the big show look like? One second, let's see. Go right there. All right, let's try that one more time. Go ahead.
Okay. Sometime between 15 and 20 minutes before totality, your surroundings are going to start to get, as I like to say, moody. Okay, you're really going to start to notice a little bit of darkening. One of the things to look at right then is your shadow that the sun is creating, because as the sun moves toward a point source, your shadow will get sharper and sharper. And a few minutes before totality, you really won't believe how sharp it is. Another thing to look for is, again, 15 to 20 minutes before totality, look in the sky for Venus especially. Venus will be 30-some degrees east of the sun, I believe, and I may have the direction wrong. Anyway, it'll be in the sky and it will pop out. You might see it first through binoculars, don't point them at the sun, but you will see Venus and you'll see it all through totality, and then probably, because you know where it is, you'll be able to follow it for 30 or more minutes after totality. As the sun begins to approach the total phase, one of the things to do is, if there are any trees in your location, and there aren't any where I'm going to be at an airport. Obviously, you don't want any trees at an airport, but if there are any trees, look beneath the trees, because the overlapping of the leaves will create very tiny pinholes and make a pinhole camera. But not just one, especially if there is any breeze, you'll see hundreds of images of partially eclipsed suns. And you'll notice this when the partial phase is 50% and on toward totality. So those are some of the things to look for before totality. And then, of course, when you hear what I think are the two most spectacularly awesome words in science, diamond ring, that's the time to remove your solar glasses and watch that last brilliant part of the sun's disk with the corona, the ring of the sun's atmosphere around it, forming that diamond ring in space. I promise you, you'll never forget it.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Everyone says that eclipses impact you in these ways that you won't ever forget, and I know that adds up very well for why folks like Bernhard would wind up being eclipse chasers, right? You have this incredible, deep, profound experience, and then that just sort of expands and just becomes something that you want to have more of. You get this eclipse fix by seeing more eclipses. One of my favorite stories is actually from a friend of mine who was part of a group that actually worked with Alaska Airlines, got them to slightly reschedule a flight that was pretty close to an eclipse. So they rescheduled it, they rerouted the path just a little bit, and of course, being astronomers, they planned out, they know which direction, outside the plane, whether it's the right or the left side of the aisle, who actually gets to see the eclipse out the window. And so as he told me, you actually have a lot of astronomers all up and down one side of the plane, and then the other side of the plane is just all the general public who had no idea what kind of flight they were about to get onto. But just a really, really fantastic moment there. Let's see if we can jump to Vivian now. Vivian, do you want to share? I don't want to restrict you too much here, but is there, having heard some of the other items we've touched on, is there something that you feel compelled to add to the conversation right now?
Wow, I don't talk to many people who get to be in the path. Not many groups get to be in the path of totality. Most of the people I talk to, I'm trying to convince them that it's going to be okay, that they're not in the path. They might be in a museum in Wichita or something like that. So you guys are the luckiest of the lucky. I'm just so thrilled. This will be my first eclipse, so I actually have nothing to contribute as far as what it's going to be like, except that I cannot wait. I've been waiting for 20 years. I would say a couple of things that I have learned from others along the way that I can pass on is that you want to turn, if you decide you want to take pictures, which you absolutely, if it's your first time and you're feeling like you just want to enjoy it, I definitely encourage that. But if you've decided to take pictures, please turn your flashes off. That's a big one. You're also going to want to turn off any music. This is kind of a moment. This is a spiritual moment, and you're going to want to experience in all of its glory. Like this would be the birds change what they're doing, the animals around you, if the temperature drops, there are all these things that you will want to experience totally at that moment. So to have as little distraction as possible is probably what I have heard from others is the way to go. So that's what I plan to do. If for any reason you are clouded out, I hope that that's not the case, but if you prepare for it, then maybe it won't happen. There are lots of live stream of the eclipse happening, so you can definitely check that out from NASA, from the Exploratorium. I don't wish that on anybody. I hope you all have really clear skies.
Thank you for not wishing clouds on us. We are not we're not hoping for clouds either. That was something that someone I had spoken with at one point had also shared, that he had seen four total eclipses of the sun, and one of them had been clouded out. And in many ways, he said that was actually his favorite. And one of the reasons for that was, like you were mentioning, about the animals, that you actually get this chance when you're not scrambling to look up and get that one and only view of the corona that you can get, but to instead actually have that chance to really soak in exactly like you had mentioned, Vivian, the temperature drops, the activity of the animals, really exciting, unusual, unique things that sort of shake up everything we've ever known just about day and night. So I know we've got a question here in the audience. So do you want to come up and ask them, and you can have your time to shine. If you want to come up, you can let folks know your name. But this way, if you step in front, they get a chance to see you here.
Hi, my name's Chris Bogan, And I have kind of a two-part question. The first is, you know, right now we're sitting here and we know well in advance that this eclipse is coming. And, you know, I assume that at some point in the past, you know, we didn't know that. So I was kind of wondering when in history, in terms of like the history of astronomy, did people start understanding and knowing exactly when such an eclipse would happen? And then the second question is, throughout history, say perhaps before these things were known, when they just suddenly happened, are there any historical events that were sort of surrounding the eclipse, or anything that happened as a result of the eclipse, or some kind of religious awakening that happened, or something like that in history?
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. Let's see. So we might be able to split that up, actually. So is there someone on our panel here who wants to go into a little bit of when humans first started to figure out how to predict eclipses, when they would happen? Is anyone feeling inspired to dive in on that? Let's see. Bernhard, I see you. All right, we'll get the phone ready for you, Bernhard. All right, go ahead.
I was just telling you, I know there was one time where Chinese astrologers at the time were not able to predict an eclipse. It was some 2,300 before Christ. An eclipse happened and they were not able to predict it. So the legend says that they were beheaded.
Oh, so okay. So you said, wait. So someone was beheaded for not knowing the eclipse was coming. Yeah, that's. It makes me glad we predicted this one, so we know we won't get beheaded. That's a big relief here. All right. What was the?
No, now we can predict eclipses within 1/100 of a second. So that's the beauty of science. Although then we cannot predict if the weather will be clear or not.
Yes. No, that's a great way to look at it. Thank you for sharing that. So as Bernhard was telling us, we've gotten to the point now where we can predict an eclipse within 1/100 of a second now. So science has really progressed pretty incredibly in that arena, and yet we can't tell you what the weather's going to be. So just sort of a funny juxtaposition on that day. So thank you for that, Bernhard. I know people like to do their best to try to make these predictions and look at some statistical weather, but I also know that our friends at the National Weather Service don't want to make any predictions till about 10 days out, and we know they'll be getting some very high viewership and people very much on their toes, waiting to see how this eclipse goes. So that was the first piece of and then the second piece was just about, are there any historical, possibly religious or just other events that have happened tied into this eclipse? So would anyone, one of the others, feel inclined to dive in on that one? See, no one's diving in too quickly.
I don't have my facts straight.
I'll give a small one. Not that small, but one thing that was said to have transpired back in, I had to look it up, sorry, I'm lucky I have another screen right here I can grab onto. In 1831, Nat Turner, who began one of the largest slave rebellions, he was said to have been inspired by an eclipse that happened on February 11th. And he envisioned this as a black man's hand reaching over the sun, and this is what inspired him to lead the rebellion. One of probably the many things that inspired him to lead the rebellion. But I thought that was an interesting one.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic fact to share. I know we talk in a planetarium show that we have created here. Of our dragon taking bites out of the sun. So lots of creative ideas. Or now you hear people even make a more modern pop culture reference about the sun looking like Pac-Man for a little bit once it's just a little bit into that phase. I have heard wind of other different events going on where some people are potentially using their confident knowledge that this eclipse is coming and planning some different religious events surrounding it. But I want to tread lightly on any commentary on that. I can agree very confidently with Polly about wanting to be careful and getting facts straight on that. we'll see folks who are here. I know it's sort of funny because no one can see you on camera, but if you do have other questions, just let Lacey know, and she'll take care of you here. So yeah, sir, if you want to come right on up, we can have you unleash the next question for our folks here. So if you want to come around here, watch the cables. We've got the whole internet right at our feet, literally.
I'm Dave Walton, here with my wife and my twin grandkids. This is a scientific event, and so I'm wondering, what are the scientists around the world hoping to learn? What scientific knowledge are they trying to gather through this event that we don't have prior to this?
That's a fantastic question. Yeah, thank you for sharing that one. Bernhard, I see you perking up. Are you interested in weighing in on this one? All right, let's hear it.
We have been learning along eclipses, it was the discovery of what causes the colors of the corona, and it helps us to understand that the corona is plasma heated at 300 degrees of temperature. More recently, we have tried to use eclipses to understand why this corona is heated. And with observation from space, we have better clue that there are some electromagnetic waves that go to the solar atmosphere. You need to observe them at a very high frequency, and this we could do during the solar eclipse, to better understand how the solar corona is heated.
All right, so just to echo there for just a moment, so a really great chance for us to gain a better understanding of the corona of the sun, which of course it's so rare for us to be able to view. It's always up there, but also thanks to the sun's brightness, we have our nice bright blue sky every day blocking our view of that corona. So looking a little bit more closely at the corona, specifically, we know it's made of a plasma, millions of degrees. Through some other observations from satellites in space, we can look at some of the electromagnetic waves coming from it and explore the solar atmosphere a little bit more. But this creates such a unique situation where we do actually get that different view to be able to use some of our equipment from right here on Earth that we haven't spent the billions of dollars to launch into space and then look at the sun. So it unleashes a lot of possibilities for us to be using some different equipment, some of the really large, powerful Earth-based telescopes to get a view of that. I'll share something else that had been shared with us recently by a solar physicist from NASA. There's this idea of these shadow snakes, and if anyone wants to chime in about that, yeah, I see we've got Polly ready here to talk about this. Yes, I did just say snakes. So they call these shadow bands, but it's just this crazy phenomenon. I'm getting too excited about it. So Polly, I'll let you talk about some of the exciting pieces of it there. So go ahead, Polly.
I was lucky. I saw shadow bands at the eclipse in 2012 in Northern Australia, and it was really remarkable the way the light moved and we were fortunate to have a white background, which made it really easy to see, and we actually caught it on video. I mean, it's not the world's best video, but we did catch it. It's on YouTube, so people can see an example of what it's like. It's fascinating, and like Michael Bakich was saying earlier, the light right before totality is just so surreal anyway. And then when you see these shadow bands or shadow snakes, it's really quite remarkable because it's not something that you'll see any other time. It's really neat.
Absolutely, yeah.
Look for them.
As I understand it, you don't always see these. They're not a given that they would happen in any eclipse. So that's something that even people who have seen multiple eclipses get very excited about, this chance to watch for these shadow bands to come out. As the NASA scientist I was mentioning to you described it, she said they literally look like just thousands of snakes, and they change directions, but they're all facing the same direction at any one point in time, which is just a really surreal thing. to think about. I was glad actually that you mentioned the looking at a light surface. So a great technique that you can use is to lay out a white bed sheet, or if you've got maybe a really light piece of pavement, maybe some sidewalk, to see it. But that helps those show up just a little bit more for folks who want to try to capture these. My favorite part about them, though, and the reason that I sort of started going down this track is we don't know what causes them. So, much like Bernhard was saying, we have figured out a lot about eclipses. We're not entirely sure why these shadow bands happen. So that's something that NASA will be watching very closely. That's another very current science interest for us. So we've got that coming right there. Another question, unless anyone else has other current science that they want to weigh in on. Anyone have any?
I have one thing I'd love to mention that I learned recently, is that, we have all of these, we have these telescopes in space that are looking at the sun all the time now. Have you seen SDO's website? You can just see the sun in many, many different wavelengths, which is so cool. And so people are like, so what are we going to learn? Why do we need an eclipse to study the sun? And one thing is, those telescopes are either looking at the sun itself, or they're looking at the area outside the sun, the corona. But if they're looking at the area at the corona, they have to mask off the sun, so they have to cover it up so that you can't see it. And the instruments are so sensitive that they can't exactly mask off the sun. They have to mask off a little bit of a larger area so that it doesn't accidentally move and damage it, or if they are a little bit off and they're pointing, it won't damage the instrument. So we don't actually know a whole lot about the very inner corona on the sun, and that the eclipse can teach us a lot, because this moon just happens to exactly cover the sun at this point in time. So that's pretty exciting. So that's some of the science that we'll be doing. There are a couple of different projects that are dedicated to looking at that inner corona. The Citizen Kate is going through, I think you have a Citizen Kate person in Nashville, actually. It's a NASA project. And then the Citizen Science project that we have going with Mega Movie will also be doing the similar thing.
Yeah, we had just a slight signal hiccup there, but yeah, looking at the inner corona, like you mentioned, definitely something cool. I'm glad you used the word happened. That the moon happens to cover the sun. The fact that eclipses happen for us at all is really an incredible phenomenon. The fact that our moon and our sun are two tremendously different sizes, but they're also very different distances from us when we look up to the sky. So the fact that they are approximately the same size in our sky and that we can have these eclipses happen is something that just makes this an incredible experience for us here on Earth. And I also, like Vivian, as you had mentioned, just that the moon does a nicer job covering up the sun, because we need to protect our instruments. We have to cover a little bit extra so that we don't completely break those the CCDs inside, some of those chips, that are detecting that light. We don't want to fry out the pixels on them, and so it's great that we can build these instruments. But there's something really almost majestic or poetic that what's happening just in our solar system gives us an even closer view than some of these instruments that we have built. So that's a fantastic thing to think about. I've got another question that was passed up my way, and Vivian, this one actually is sent to you, since you used to live in Nashville. So we're going to put you right back on the spot. If you still lived in Nashville, this is going to sound canned, but you all saw, this is real. If you still lived in Nashville, where would you go to see this eclipse?
What's the hill kind of behind Vanderbilt? I'm sorry, it's been 20 years since I've lived there. I think
you've got an answer from the audience. Look at that. We reversed our Q&A here. It's Love Circle. Yeah,
Love Circle. That's what I was thinking. That's probably where I'd be, but I imagine half of Nashville will be there. Maybe other good places, because you're a little bit south of the center line, I believe.
Nashville is, yeah.
Yeah, so even just going a little bit north out to some big field where there's not going to be too many trees around to block your view, where you might have some space to see it. Yeah.
Definitely. All right, you've got some folks taking notes here, so they're excited to hear some of that. I know we've got a question coming your way, Michael. So let's go ahead and we'll see what that is. What All right, for you, Michael, what makes the best eclipse photo? So what makes the best eclipse photo? I'm not sure if is that online or it's coming from all over. It came from somewhere on the internet. So Michael, if you want to weigh in, I just wanted to check sort of the spirit of that question, either what makes a beautiful photo, or what's the best approach to get a good photo. So if you want to take that either way, we'll let you have your judgment on that.
Okay, I'll answer that, and I'll also give you a little bit of advice. If this is your first eclipse, don't photograph it. Because why would you want to be looking down ever when the maximum amount of totality is only 2 minutes and 40 seconds? You don't want to be fooling with lenses and f-stops and exposures and things like that. And no offense to anybody who's watching this and your photographic skills, but if you're using an off-the-shelf DSLR or a point-and-shoot camera, or heaven forbid, a cell phone, you're probably not going to get the photo that's going to warrant a 2-page spread in Astronomy magazine. I'm just saying, probably just a guess. As photo editor of the magazine, having been to 14 total solar eclipses myself, I've seen them all. I've seen all the photos. And there's no one great photo. There are great photos that show close-ups, as Vivian was talking about, of the inner corona. There are photos that people have worked on for hours and hours and hours to get both the inner corona and the outer corona to show. There are photos that are wide-angle views that show half the sky with this literally black hole in the center of it. They're all spectacular in their own ways, but of course, none of them compare to actually being under the dark inner shadow of the moon and watching it. So if this is your first eclipse, don't try to photograph it. There'll be another opportunity, not quite 7 years from now. You can photograph that one, and it'll be a longer totality. It'll be more than 2 minutes longer than this one. So photograph that one and just enjoy this one. And occasionally wipe the tears of joy from your eyes and just watch.
No, thank you. I love to hear you give that advice, because that's something that I've been telling people pretty constantly. Don't take pictures. Don't take pictures. Just go somewhere online. Maybe Astronomy magazine would be a good bet since you're here with us. But yeah, just to make sure that you're there to see that. Polly, a couple of questions for you. You've seen a fair share of eclipses, but you've seen more than probably anyone in this room with us here in Nashville. Can you just share maybe an experience or two from the eclipses that you have seen?
Sure. My favorite one, I can tie this into the last question. My favorite one was one in Gabon in West Africa. And what we did for that one, instead of photographing it ourselves, we put the video camera behind us and just left it, let it go, with all of our group in the foreground and the totality and the total the eclipsed sun above us. So basically you saw everybody's backs, but you could hear the audio of all of these people, these villagers in, oh, forgive me, I've forgotten the name of the village, in Gabon, but it was really amazing. That was a wonderful experience. And the video for me personally is a real treasure, because you could hear everybody just screaming and hooting and hollering and crying and carrying on, and it was just wonderful. And I guess that's one of the things about deciding to become an eclipse chaser, is that it takes you to the most amazing places that you wouldn't otherwise go, and meet incredible people, and you cross paths with people who share a passion for this and care about astronomy and science, and just the luck of what we have with this cosmic billiard shot is what Michael and I call it, that, you know, just happens to be, as you all were saying, you know, for the sun is 400 times bigger, but it's 400 times further away, so it is an exact match. That cosmic billiard shot is just something really amazing. And I'm an eclipse chaser now, I'm going to stay that way. Our world map is what we call our vacation planner for the rest of our lives.
No, that's fantastic. Again, more of the eloquent explanations from folks who have seen and studied eclipses. A question for Michael, actually. You have a book. It's called Your Guide to the Eclipse. Can you just tell us a little bit about that, where the inspiration came from, and sort of what all people would expect to find inside that book?
I can tell you a little about it. It's awesome. Seriously, I tried to combine a number of things in the book. Circumstances of this eclipse, where you could see it, best places to see it, not only for length of totality, but also weather. And there is a long chapter about historical eclipses and some of the most famous eclipses. For example, one in 1919, which proved Einstein's theory of relativity, that a massive body like the sun and its gravity could literally bend space, and starlight would have to follow that bend. An amazing thing to think of. There are also a lot of projects in the book that I've done or I've heard of that I wanted to share with people. Glossary, I think pretty much everything that I could fit into the book, with the exception of something that somebody actually did better than me, and that's Michael and Polly at greatamericaneclipse.com with their spectacular eclipse maps. And if you want to see a really, really spectacular example of a map they created just for Astronomy magazine, and it stretches 12 full pages in our August issue, pick up that issue. And just terrific work.
Thanks.
That's awesome. No, that's fantastic, and yeah, and great words of thanks to Polly and Michael for the work on the Great American Eclipse. Of course, you've got a lot of big fans. And then Bernhard, you were mentioning also something that's available from the ESA. So if you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about that. I know Vivian's interested in where we can see this.
Okay, yes. If you Google Eclipse 1999, you will go to the website there, where we had a real-time also webcast where we had images from all the sites. And we could have a real-time movie of a few hours on the shadow of the crossing Europe. But after we made the movie, and I wanted to say that the great images of eclipse are the deep scientific images you take, like we take as professionals, images that include the landscape, because then we showed mostly pictures of people. People which are amazed by this cosmic experience. And so, in our movie, we captured also some of these scenes and the noise of people when they have some eclipse, and it was quite an amazing experience. And it's true at that time, I was a solar physicist, and I became an eclipse chaser. And then I was told that you are an expert of the book. You observe so many eclipses. And that's when they started to tell me that I should work on a mission to explore the moon. That's from the time I started. And then I became an eclipse chaser, where when we launched the spacecraft over the moon, we observed some eclipses from the moon.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And this is what I did it with our spacecraft one, but one is all one with my eyes. On the moon. That's one of the future goals. In the meantime, we have been working on the moon. We want to build a good station. I want to reside there, and when it is, I would like to invite you all to join me.
Awesome. No, thank you. What a kind invite. Let me fill everyone in. I was taking some good notes so we can make sure that he's to Google, and so if you Google that Eclipse 1999, you'll have a chance to watch to see this movie that was created, and some of the different featured content there includes a lot of landscape photos. So it's not just the pictures of the sun, but some of the pictures, from the surroundings, some of the pictures of people, so that you can actually see people sort of going through this experience, what exactly it's meaning for them. Or sort of the ways that it impacted them. We keep saying words can't describe it and pictures can't describe it, but the more you see those different human sort of relations with the moon and the sun and just this incredible sight in the sky, you start to really appreciate what a fantastic thing is coming. You were also talking, Bernhard, about how you went on a little bit of a journey as a solar physicist. You were studying the sun, but then it moved on, not just from studying the sun, but with eclipses. Then, of course, you've got the moon coming into the picture. You wound up studying the moon. Had a huge role in the spacecraft. You launched that to the moon. Then you got to see an eclipse from the moon using that spacecraft, which is tremendously cool. And then here comes his generous invite. His goal is that at some point, now that he's become an eclipse chaser, the next step is to see the eclipse from the moon in person, not just through the eyes of this spacecraft. So once we have a village and have everyone set up to colonize the moon, Bernhard has very graciously invited all of us over to go watch the eclipse. So thank you again, Bernhard. Everyone's happy to be a part of that. So just an incredible thing. Again, to find that, you would Google Eclipse 1999 ESA for the movie that Bernhard was letting us know about. Other questions, and it's turning out to be a really great wrap up here. So Polly, could you just remind us what's the best way? What are some of the different ways that folks can connect with Great American Eclipse if they've got more interest in different content or different desires to get in touch? What's the best route?
The website is greatamericaneclipse.com. That's pretty comprehensive. We do update it on a regular basis, but Facebook, we also put content there on our Facebook page that we don't necessarily put on the website. So there's there's just some additional stuff there. We do all the other social media as well, but those are the top two, greatamericaneclipse.com and additional fun stuff on our Facebook page.
Awesome.
We really interact with people through the Facebook page. We try to stay on top of it, and you can reach both Michael and I for comments through there.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that additional information. I know you've got a lot of different channels. You can see we're here on this great rotating Earth, and now the sun is coming in the window to cook me here in Nashville. So Bernhard, I hope you're not too jealous post midnight over there. So we'll do that. We'll just taunt you just a little bit there. A question for Vivian. Where can we find some of these activities that you were mentioning? Lots of different activities that folks, either if they're involved with informal education or maybe if you just want to try some of this at home, what's the best way to find those activities?
Yeah, we have a lot of them for informal science education on the nightskynetwork.org. So if you go there and you look at the outreach resources, you can print your own postcards that give you all the information, that has a pinhole. So you can use it as a pinhole projector, but it's got all your information that you need about safe solar viewing. You've got activities, you've got, you can also go to Eclipse 2017 at nasa.gov, and they have a whole toolkit full of information. You can find lots of activities through NASA. If you just Google NASA Eclipse 2017, there's a lot there for sure. There are also great videos being made lately, and you can just find those on YouTube. Those would be some of my recommendations for sure.
That's fantastic. Well, I want to thank you all for sharing lots of different resources. Definitely a creative crew that we've got on this call right here. I wanted to thank everyone for your time. Remind everyone that if you are joining us either on site or even if you can't make it here to the Adventure Science Center, we've been posting some of our different activities online as well. And so we've got activities you can try at home, blog posts that do touch on some historic eclipses, which I know was one of the questions that came up here as well. We also have events going on here on the property. So if you want to come watch the eclipse with us or try your hands at all sorts of different science, we've got a whole big festival in the works for the couple of days before the eclipse even. So you're welcome to explore all that. I will selfishly, as the planetarium manager, reference the planetarium show that we've created all about the eclipse, and also a 360 video that was posted a couple of weeks ago. So you can actually load that up on your phone and turn around and actually look all around. So the video is existing all around you. You get to hear my sweet, sweet voice talk to you for 3 minutes about the eclipse. So I want to go ahead and wrap up. I want to thank everyone there. I know that we have questions here, so we may, if you folks are free to stay online, we may do that. But I want to give you just a chance to see our crowd. They're here. They're saying hello. So this is our crowd. Let's just give our panelists just a huge hand and thank them for everything tonight. Awesome. That's really fantastic. Well, we will go ahead and end our broadcast here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us to learn a little bit more about this incredible astronomical event coming on August 21st. From all of us here at the Adventure Science Center, have a great day and enjoy the countdown to totality.